The Florida Panthers have made some changes to their coaching staff. We're going to talk about the rankings of the Panthers center depth across the NHL and a possible trade, whether it makes sense for the Panthers to make. And we're going to talk about reverse retro jerseys, what we could see the Panthers doing and what we would like for them to do. And we're also going to be talking about the life of Ben Stelter, Oilers superfan, all on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, August 12th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from PantherParkway.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. And thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Don't forget to also subscribe to Locked On NHL and Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Still Roden. We'll be covering all the offseason activities around the National Hockey League. So, Cats fans, there's been a little bit of activity now with the Florida Panthers and their coaching staff. There's actually been 5 changes to the coaching staff and some extensions along with it. But we're going to talk about that all with my guest today on today's show. It happens to be a Friday, so that means it's another edition of Fairbanks Friday here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Nick, welcome back to the show.
Welcome back indeed, Armando. Thank you for having me on again, and I can't wait to get this episode started.
Absolutely, man. So let's start off with some of the coaches that have been here in the most recent years on their statuses on the Florida Panthers coaching staff. So these are kind of things that this one we kind of knew that was going to happen based on him being in development camp. Rob Talis, of course, there was never word about him being let go by Bill Zito and company. And of course, he was there at development camp just recently. And now was announced that he is officially going to be back with the Florida Panthers. And another signing that happened with a coach that has been with this organization is Jordy Kanier, who has a 3-year contract extension with the Florida Panthers. He's been with the organization since the 2017-2018 season when they were in Springfield. So a successful season for the Charlotte Checkers, getting a first-round bye and winning a playoff series before eventually getting swept. Well, as when they were part of the Charlotte Checkers, losing to their former affiliate in the Springfield Thunderbirds. How fitting is that? But hey, a 3-year extension for Jordy Kanier. Rob Talis is back. It's been with the organization since 2009, Rob Talis. So little bit of familiar faces with the Florida Panthers who are sticking around. Your thoughts on those signings?
I didn't think that Robbie Talis was going to be going anywhere. His name was never really brought up in speculation if he was going to be going anywhere, if he was going to be on the chopping block. I can't say, what he's been able to, I guess, not provide or show. I mean, I think he worked well with Bob last year. He's worked with Luongo. When he came in, he was working for, Vokoun, Craig Anderson. Florida's been blessed with a lot of great goaltending and a lot of great goaltenders over the years. And, I have to think that maybe Robbie Talis does have, some say into that. I'm actually just interested in see what he's going to be doing with Spencer Knight, because he is going to be the future. And it's going to be very interesting to see, what he thinks about, giving maybe Knight some more games or trying to give him some more time, maybe in the AHL to develop his game so he's not sitting night after night.
Literally night after night. But yeah, and that kind of also relates to a recent signing with the Florida Panthers that they just announced just a few days ago with Andrew Hammond, aka the Hamburgler, signed a PTO with the Florida Panthers. And I think of this more as AHL depth more. And, Andrew Hammond has played 67 games in his NHL career, some flashes here and there. He has the nickname for a reason. Of course, some injury luck hasn't been in his favor as well. And Rob Talis also has a say in that as well. I don't see many starts for Andrew Hammond if he does in fact make the team after that PTO. But hey, this could be another situation for the Panthers this year. Of course, taking advantage of Spencer Knight's ELC, and that the fact that if Spencer Knight does have a bit of a struggle, hey, you still have that benefit of sending him down for a few games, just like last year.
Definitely. And I think, Andrew was able to be picked up by Montreal earlier in the season, last season, because I know that Sam Montembeault, Panther favorite down here, had to, sit, a couple of games just because, he either wasn't performing well or they just wanted to give him a break. But I think Hammond actually came in one game and actually stole a game for them. So, that's more than we could probably say about the other backup goaltenders that Florida had last year. Not going to pin it all on him, but yeah, that was atrocious to watch. So it's all about making sure that there's a foundation there, and that in case Bob or unfortunately Knight goes down for an extended period, that you have somebody who's had games under his belt that can actually come in, step in, and maybe take some weight off of the team.
Absolutely, and that's really what this signing tells me for the Panthers. Now let's get to some of the other signings as far as the assistants. One that was rumored as of last month. I spoke about it a little bit on the show, but there was no formal announcement from the team. So now the Florida Panthers make it official. Jamie Compton, longtime assistant of Paul Maurice, who served under him from 2016 to 2012 in Winnipeg. That was official now. Won 2 cups with Chicago, and then went to the WHL for a few years as a head coach / GM for the Portland Winterhawks, and then back to the NHL with Winnipeg, and now is continuing that relationship with Paul Maurice and carrying that on to Florida. This one is a little bit of a controversial one for the Panthers. Sylvains La Frey, this name, if the hockey fans who are very familiar with this name if this name sounds very familiar to older hockey fans, he was on that Colorado Avalanche team in '96 that defeated the Panthers in that same year. Defenseman for the Colorado Avalanche, has had head coaching experience with the Hamilton Bulldogs when they were under Montreal. Served there for 6 years. Was an assistant with San Diego, the San Diego Gulls. But never got to coach a single game as an assistant with Columbus due to the fact that he refused to get the COVID-19 vaccine, and then Jarmo Kekalainen let him go due to that. So that's a little bit of a controversial signing as far as public perception of the Panthers. But this signing, saying that they're bringing him along, don't know whether he does have the shot or not. But this shows at least that Bill Zito, Paul Maurice has had at least a conversation with them, and looks like that really the conversation starts from the signing, and then hopefully for us and hopefully for this fan base that at least the vaccine part of it is not going to be a distraction for the team.
So one comment I will make about that, or actually I'll make 2. Number one, it's the state of Florida. So let's be honest. I don't think that the public's really going to care too much. Let's be real. And then secondly, we'll know. Yeah, we'll know as soon as the team travels up to Canada if he's decided to get vaccinated and everything, because Canada still has strict policies that they won't allow anybody over the border unless you are vaccinated. So, there's players, like Tyler Bertuzzi, who still refused and, did not travel to Canada when Detroit went up, played Montreal and all those teams up there. Could have used him, but we'll see what happens this season. But I don't know too much about him, other than he did play in Colorado and that he did win a cup with them. We'll see what kind of defensive structure he's going to bring. I think that Paul Maurice already has something in place. we'll see if the Fed can actually bring the Panthers to more of a defensive style play instead of run and gun, like that they're used to. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table.
Mm. And the last one is Miles Fee, who worked as a video coach for 4 different teams. 1 year with the New York Rangers, 7 years with the Edmonton Oilers, 4 years with the Charlotte Checkers when they're under Carolina, and then the last 2 years with Buffalo. And the thing that these 3 assistant coaches have in common is that they're all defensemen as well. So Miles Fee played in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League growing up, as well as Division III hockey as well. So that's a little bit of his resume. So they all have a defensive presence, that what they're bringing to the coaching staff. So I think Paul Maurice might be up to something in like what kind of structure he's going to change. Like you said, run and gun, changing from what they were. So, there might be some growing pains towards the first maybe 10-ish games of the season, but hey, it's going to take some getting used to for these players under this new coaching staff.
It is. And, I don't want to be the first person to say, but it kind of contradicts what he said, that he doesn't want to change the offensive style of the team and everything yet. Now we have 3 defensive style coaches coming in. The team just got bigger and tougher, which they needed to, let's be honest. But at the same time, we're really going to see how this team is going to be in October and November. It kind of has me wondering, how long is it going to take for them to form to this new identity? And if it's going to be a marathon rather than a sprint, like it seemed like it was all season last season. So hopefully they'll do what Tampa did last year is, hey, we'll win a lot of our games, but we don't need to win every single game. We can be rested and get ready for the playoffs and play the style that we want to play, which is going to be rough and tough.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and it's a lot of these sports leagues are copycat leagues too. So the Panthers are taking pages out of other teams' books. That's for sure. But in the next segment, we're going to discuss some center depth rankings for the NHL, and we're going to talk about where do the Florida Panthers stand in the compared to the rest of the NHL. But first, we're going to tell you all about BetOnline. And BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news for every league, including MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Second segment here on this Fairbanks Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm Armando Velez. I got Nick Fairbanks here on the show. So, Nick, Travis Yost of TSN decided to rank some of the center depth for each team and puts them doesn't go 1 to 32, but goes through at least tiers of centers in for each team. And even a few weeks ago when I was making some lineup projections, for me, the easiest position for me to plug was center for the Panthers.
Yep.
So even before opening it, I already knew that the Panthers were kind of going to be ranked either in the tier 2 or tier 1. So Travis Yost gives the Panthers a tier 1 ranking, which is in that category elite. So there's only 3 of them in on the list: Florida, Edmonton, and Toronto. So those are the 3 teams that are listed in this. So of course, let's Barkov, Bennett, Lundell, Etu Luostarinen. Edmonton, McDavid, Draisaitl, Ryan McLeod, Derek Ryan. Toronto, Matthews, Tavares, David Kampf, Adam Gaudette. The only reason why Tampa Bay is not on that tier is because of the injury that's with Anthony Cirelli. He's going to be out 4 to 6 months. So still some elite company that the Florida Panthers find themselves in. And really, of course, it goes without being said, when you can build the centers, it helps the different parts of definitely of your lineup. And even if there's a weaker part of the lineup, even on the wings, the centers can really help drive the play. And of course, it's more than just winning faceoffs, of course. But if you start there and you could have that as a foundation, there's many different things that could help around the lineup.
Definitely. And if you look at the tier one rankings that he put up, so, as you said, it was Edmonton with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's probably going to be number one and number two centers for me. Like, I don't think, I love Alexander Barkov, but if Connor McDavid ever became available and everything, I'm saying yes. But yeah, you can't say no to the top 1 and 2. So yeah, that's definitely number one for me. And then I do honestly think that Alexander Barkov and Sam Bennett do beat out Austin Matthews and John Tavares, to the fact that I trust Sam Bennett more than I do John Tavares at this stage, in his career. But then you start going down to forward 3 and forward 4, and that's where you have to really start to wonder or decide, what type of centerman do you need? Or, do you need a grinder, or do you need somebody who's going to be a defensive specialist, or, are you just throwing people together? And I think Anton Lundell and D2 or E2 Lesterainen really solidified themselves last season, as premier third and fourth line centers. Anton came in right away and provided exactly what this team needed, which was a stable third line, and provided really good defense. And then you had E2 Lesterainen, who stepped up when it meant the most with his play, and it didn't matter who he played with. And I think right there showed that he was consistent and that he could also provide Florida with something to look forward to for the next year or two. And he definitely deserved that contract extension. But one last thing, if I were to look between Edmonton and Toronto with their third and fourth line centers, I think they're just carried by their top 2 lines. I would take Florida's bottom 6 centers over them any day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and listen, John Tavares is also not the most popular Maple Leaf right now over the last few seasons, but apparently John Tavares as well. Reports are saying that he is at the healthiest that he's been in the last two seasons. So for Maple Leaf fans, they're of course hoping that those that $10+ million contract that he got in that free agent deal a few years ago, that is because you're looking at 3 players who are taking up $30 million of the cap in Matthews, Tavares, and Marner there. So with the Maple Leafs, they're hoping that they get not only a healthy Tavares but a more productive Tavares as well based on that contract. But yeah, Anton Lundell, especially the fact that he came in and right away he was on special teams playing the penalty kill as well, especially on that top unit. Of course, growing pains a little bit here and there in his first season in North America. That's definitely a luxury for the Florida Panthers to have. And, and of course would have been in the Calder conversation had he not missed some games. So, hey, a good situation to be in for Anton Lundell here in Florida. Before we transition over to segment 3, we spoke a little bit about on offline earlier in the day, and Twitter was speaking about this as well, about the injury to Robin Lehner of the Vegas Golden Knights, that he will miss the all of the 2022-23 season after getting hip surgery today. And a lot of the talk was about trading Bobrovsky to the Vegas Golden Knights for some cap relief, even at 50%. Apparently, with their contracts of Shea Weber on their books, and of course Robin Lehner, now their total cap can go at least up to like $95 million, according to Cap Friendly. I added Bob's contract at 50% retained. It could work. It'll get Vegas up to $93 million. In total cap, but of course the relief of Shea Weber and Lehner will bring that down to 82.5. And as far as if a trade were to happen and who says no, I think if I think Vegas would be the one to say no, because it could work this year. But what about after, with Robin Lehner still having term on his contract? And this is assuming that Robin Lehner is going to come back and play. And that's a big if. So if Robin Lehner does come back in the 23-24 season, you cap strap yourself again. And they traded Max Pacioretty already to get rid of some of those cap issues. I just don't think it's a realistic trade. What's on what you have a look on your face, Nick. So what's on your mind when it comes to a possible Bob trade to Vegas?
Well, according to people, when I have, thoughts percolating, I always have a look on my face. So I'm going to come at it from a different angle. Number one, it just shows that Vegas is probably paying the piper right now for all the moves that they made and all the way that they treated players. You can bet that a lot of fans, or maybe the management, probably wanted to keep Fleury around right now. So you have that. But the angle that I'm looking at right now is, they need a goalie, and they just brought in a coach to take them back to the playoffs. They have no NHL goaltenders on their roster as of right now. Everybody's either hurt or they have very limited experience. So I could definitely see Vegas making a push or making a splash and getting Bobrovsky, but it won't be just between Vegas and Florida. Looking at their depth chart, of their team and everything, I don't think that they have a lot to give up. I mean, the only defenseman that, and I'm going to say defenseman because that's what Florida needs right now, is Shea Theodore. That is the only one that's young enough that I think would help the Panthers core, but also has a cap hit that would help alleviate some of the cap hit that might hit Florida on the return. And also, it would help out Vegas in that. But at the same time, maybe it helps out Vegas if Florida were to trade him to one team and then flip him over to Vegas, and Vegas gives them a draft pick, and Florida gets a prospect and one of the defensemen from Vegas. So I can see it working like that. I mean, we're seeing more, 3-team trades, in the cap area, and we finally just saw our first sign-in trade ever in NHL history with Matthew Tkachuk. So things are not out of the realm of possibility, especially with Bill Zito at the helm. I just question how hard does Vegas want to come in and actually get a goaltender in, because if they don't have somebody that has experience right now, I don't care who's coaching. I don't care who's on that team. I mean, Jack Eichel's on the team. They're not going to go anywhere. They're going to miss the playoffs again.
For sure. That's the number one position that you need in order to succeed in the postseason. And Shea Theodore, if you were to do a 50% retained salary for the Panthers, the only difference that would be adding Shea Theodore, $200,000 for the Panthers. That is extremely doable if you were to make that. And the term, you would shed off a year of term as well. While Bob has 4 years left on his contract, Shea Theodore has 3 as well. So, and of course, but I also think about it like this. Do GMs really want to help Vegas?
I think Florida would be interested in, what do they call it? A dish best served cold. Revenge. Because unfortunately, for whatever they wanted to do during the expansion draft, they definitely got the best of Florida. We're not going to rehash that whole story. So why not? Why does Florida not, return the favor and be like, hey, yeah, we'll give you a goaltender, but we want this and this back. Maybe we get a first rounder back that Zito was so fond of, flipping.
Yeah, that would be a dream. That would be a dream. And of course, you have that as more ammunition to make a further trade in the trade deadline, or even very well keep that pick and put that into the system and reboot the system just a little bit, even if it takes that, or even trade that player as they're developing through, if they stay in college or in junior, wherever they may be. So that's
still high.
It's still a high asset for the Panthers if they were because that, look at the lack of leverage that the Vegas Golden Knights have. They traded a lot for Pacioretty, but traded him for nothing. Same thing with Marc-Andre Fleury to the Blackhawks. Like most of their trades have been zero leverage, and it's been depleting their farm. Would they want to deplete their farm even further for a first round pick? I don't know. That's the $1 million question, or I guess in this sense, the $10 million question, since we're talking about Bobrovsky in this situation. But but yeah, well, I don't foresee it happening. But hey, if it does, we'll definitely discuss that more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But in the third and final segment, we're gonna have a little bit of fun here. A lot of reverse retro jerseys have been leaked, but nothing in relation to the Florida Panthers as of yet. So we're going to take a few guesses on what could be the jersey and also talk about what we want to see as a reverse retro jersey. We're going to talk about that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Third and final segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm Armando Velez. I got Nick Fairbanks here on this Fairbanks Friday edition of the podcast. And Nick, like we spoke about last segment, a lot of teams' reverse retros have been leaked. First of all, I'm very glad they're bringing them back because I think it's such a cool marketing tool for the league, and I think it's a opportunity for a lot of for a little bit of a different look on the ice. Of course, 2 seasons ago we saw the reverse retro with the blue in the middle, with the leaping panther and red on the outside, with the old sunshine with the hockey stick and palm tree. What for you? Nothing for the Panthers have been released, but what kind of reverse retro jersey would you like to see?
So the original reverse jersey, the one that came out 2 years ago, is actually my favorite jersey that I have right now. I love wearing it, and it just, to me, it's a great combination of the new and the old brought together. And I think Florida would be very smart to do that again. This way, either with a red jersey, make it more of a home jersey. So go back to that red that they had in the 90s and the 2000s. Get the leaping panther again, but with the broken hockey stick.
Oh, yes.
But I'm going to add a caveat to this because I was talking to a designer on Twitter. I think his name is Jamie. I would like to see the red of the Panthers from the 90s and 2000s on the new Panthers jersey that they have now, like their home jerseys now. That shade of red with the leaping panther with the broken stick on that layout, and then have the palm trees on the shoulder patches instead of the state flag and the panther across it. So kind of like mixing both together.
Mm-hmm. Mine would like to. The one I would like to see is broken stick leaping panther, but either the white one for their away jerseys that they used to have, or that old Panthers jersey that they have with just the Panther face in the middle and it says Florida Panthers in the circle as the crest. But instead of the face with the Panther, have the leaping Panther with those colors and have it on, and have the palm tree and the sun and the sun on the sides as well. So a little bit of a different color, but mix in some of the different jersey combinations and just mash it all into one, like a navy blue type of deal for the or sky blue in that situation. So it makes it a little bit different, but not exactly a carbon copy of what their old jerseys used to be. So maybe that could be something. And of course, I think that we were talking about this pre-recording. I think that the Florida Panthers have their design, but it's just about finalizing everything. And of course, I think the NHL is going to put an official announcement of all 32 right then and there, and we'll get to react to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll probably see it. I want to say probably closer to September when training camp comes around, or even closer to the beginning of the season. Those things got to get approved. And then, I have to tell you, it was the longest time to get mine, the original jersey. I got it as a Christmas present, but it literally took them about, I think, from ordering it to getting it was 2 months.
Oh my
So
God.
it took a while. So I think the fact that they want to get around to being able to manufacture these a lot better and a lot quicker so that they can get them into fans' hands. I think that would probably be a good idea. And then the other part of it is, I really like some of the other jerseys that have already been leaked. Like I like Vancouver's a
Mhm.
lot. I thought they were going to go back to, the skate that says Canucks under it, but I'm very okay with the design that they went with. Tampa Bay, I feel like they're going for cringe and they're going for vintage. I don't like it. If that's what they're going to go for, like with the lightning bolts on their arms and stuff like that, you guys can keep it. So that might be one jersey I'm going to dislike.
There was one by Edmonton. I believe it looked like a comet or something like that, or some type of a meteor. I don't know exactly what it looked like, but it was like purple-ish.
Yep.
That one I really liked, as a reverse retro. So that's a cool one. I hope that when the Panthers play Edmonton, that's the uniform, because I don't watch every Edmonton Oilers game, of course, with the time that of course they start being on the East Coast. So I hope that definitely that's a game that they wear those jerseys. But I do want to finish on this episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers on this note, and for especially for everyone listening and everyone who's a fan of hockey. So Edmonton Oilers super fan, Ben Stelter. If you don't know his story, he was kind of like a good luck charm for the Edmonton Oilers. Was diagnosed with brain cancer, and he was considered the Edmonton Oilers good luck charm. Was got to skate on the ice as part of like a pump up guy. Yelled play La Bamba as like their victory song. As a few days ago, he has passed away at the age of 6 due to that brain tumor. And of course, the hockey community and Edmonton Oilers community has been sending their thoughts and prayers out to him. Of course, we do here on Locked On Panthers. And, it's just no parent should have to go through this of having to, their kid died before them. No parent should have to go through something like that. So very, very, very sad and unfortunate story. But of course, Ben Stelter does leave a legacy behind as someone who's an inspiration. And of course, I've just found this out today that the Edmonton Oilers donated a lot of their 50-50 raffle money towards the Kids with Cancer Foundation as well. So great gesture by the Edmonton Oilers organization on doing that and helping kids in Ben's situation on that. So any words about the Ben Stelter passing at the age of 6, Nick?
It's a very tragic thing when a child dies, especially due to a disease such as cancer. And we can definitely say that he's probably resting easier. He doesn't have to feel pain anymore, and that's all we can ask for. Very sorry for his parents and his family. We hope that their days will be better and that they'll cherish the time that they did have with him, because he did make a big impact not only on them but also on hockey, whether it was this year or even late last year. And I just want to give a shout out also to the league, because they've been doing things like this for the last couple of years with teams either, trying to bring up a child who has an incurable disease, or, trying to bring awareness to different things, about what, people are dealing with that we may not know about. So I hope the league continues that and continues to give people a platform to speak about what they're going through and the trials and tribulations. And, I hope that they can continue that. And, I know here on Locked On Panthers that, we send our best wishes to him and his family. And, the hockey community will always be there for them.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great place to end this show. So once again, our thoughts and prayers are out to the Stelter family, and he's definitely a person that will never be forgotten. That's for sure. But Nick, I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. So tell everybody where they can follow you online.
First of all, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Prudentia0. Look forward to seeing you guys there to see what kind of crazy trade rumors we can come up with surrounding Vegas. I look forward to it. Mm-hmm. And then you guys can follow my work on PantherParkway.com.
Thank you as always, Nick, and I'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you again. I'll see you next week.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden. We'll be covering all the offseason activities around the National Hockey League. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure you listen to today's episode of Locked On NHL. Locked On Experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast. So I'm Armando Velez with Nick Fairbanks. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team